Hi there, I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent training. Welcome to our live question and answer class. Today we're going to be talking about fluent speech, and I want to look at the phrase, why did he do what he did? Question mark. I want to break this down for you, talk about the linking, the reductions that we do, how you can say this fluently and naturally, and also what this phrase can teach us about fluent speaking. So it's not just about this particular phrase, but about how we link and reduce and how you can sound more natural and fluent when you're speaking. So after that, we'll take your questions. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat at any time. Starting off with the phrase, why did he do what he did? It's a question. The most important words here are why and do and did. So it's a question word and two verbs. Those are the things that are going to get stressed, which means if I just said why, do, did, you wouldn't quite get the meaning, but a lot of the content and meaning would be there. Those words are going to be stretched out, and all of these small words in between are going to be linked and reduced. So those are the ones that are going to be most likely to be changed. How do they change? In why did he do? Did he do all runs together, and we lose the H of he. So it ends up sounding like did he. Why did he? So why did he do what he did? Do gets stressed. It's going to be stretched and not changed. And then what he did, if I said what he, I'm going to use a stop T sound, what he, because I have a consonant following my T, I don't release that. But because we tend to drop this H of he when it's an unstressed word, like in this question, then my T is going to link to the vowel, and then it follows the rule for T to a vowel, which means it'll be flapped. So it'll sound like, why did he do what he did? So when you see that rewritten here this way, why did he do what he did, seems pretty, looks pretty funny, looks pretty maybe informal, casual, but it's not slang, it's not incorrect speech, it's actually just how we link and reduce when we're speaking. So we would say, why did he do what he did? Let me show you that up close. And these are good examples of the main ways that we increase our fluency are by linking sounds, by dropping sounds, and by stretching on the stressed words and reducing on the structured words. Why did he do what he did? That's that phrase in a nutshell. I just wanted to give you a good example. We've been talking a lot here on the channel about fluent speaking and what real words or how written words differ from spoken words. So I hope that helps you. And then let's move to, I want to do a quick interactive exercise with you guys today. And then I see there's some questions. So nice to see so many of you here already this morning. Please feel free to leave your questions in the chat or in a comment if you're watching later. But I want you to try something with me today. So if you're watching this and you have the ability to practice saying something out loud while we're talking, I want to see how you say these words. So we're going to do a little check on some phrases and see what comes naturally to you. So the first one is, the first phrase I want to look at is this phrase. And I'm not going to say it because I want you to say it out loud. And first you can just read the words and you would say all the words, but how would you say this naturally in a conversation? So I say to you, will you do it? What would you say in response? Say it out loud. Okay. Did you say, I will do it? One word at a time. That's correct. It's going to be understood. It's clear, but it's not really how we would do it in connected speech. In fluent speech, we would basically never use the full will. The only time I would use will is if I'm saying, I will do it, if I'm stressing on it. And you would say that if I said, If I said to you, you won't do it, and then you said this, what does that sound like to you? You won't do it. I will do it. You're telling me I will do it. I will say it out loud, even though you're asking me to do something weird today, Christine. So that makes sense for that application where we're stressing on will. But usually, will is just a helping verb. Do is the important word in this phrase. I'll do it. I'll do it. So we change will, I will, becomes I'll do it. Do is going to be longer, and it is going to connect on. As I go between do and it, I'm going from that rounded oo to the unrounded I. I need a little w sound there. Do it, do it. So that's vowel to vowel linking that's happening. So you don't want to break, not do it, but do it. I'll do it. And then the I'll, if I asked you, will she do it? And you're saying to me, no, I'll do it, and stressing on I'll, then it's going to get the clear I sound, I'll. But in most cases, if I say, will you do it? You'll say, I'll do it, I'll do it. This changes even further to be more of an ah sound. I'll do it. Because again, do is what's important there. So I'll do it rather than I'll do it. Yeah, so hopefully that's helpful for you. I'm seeing that I'm having some internet issues, so I'm going to try to resolve that for you. I think it's a little bit slow. So hopefully the picture and your sound is okay for you. Now let me know, leave me a comment in the chat if it's giving you some trouble. Looks like it's okay. Okay, great. Nice to see you here. Good morning, Undead Heart. Nice to see you. I'm glad you were able to make it. And Miss Fatumi, I'll get to your questions in just a moment. Okay, so for this exercise, we went from the least fluent, I will do it, to one way we do say all the words, I will do it, that's natural for stress, to I'll do it, that's the main way we would say this in most cases, I'll do it, or I'll do it with the I'll pronunciation if you're trying to stress on that. So a lot of different ways this phrase can be said. The most common and the most fluent and natural, I'll do it. I'll do it. Okay, great. I hope you liked that. Next week I want to try doing a little quiz at the start of class, see if you're interested, where I'm going to write some words and have you say them out loud. And we're going to focus on some of the most common mispronunciations that people don't realize that they're doing. There's a lot of basic everyday words. You may have seen some of the videos here recently on the channel. A lot of basic everyday words that people mispronounce and they don't realize that they're doing them incorrectly. And I want to get that message out on some of these common words because it's one of those places where it does affect how people listen to your speech and whether they understand you well. And also just, you don't want to make an error on something that you use all the time. It's very noticeable in your speech. So, okay, great. So let's go turn to your questions now. And we have a question about how to say little bit of this and little bit of that with the linking. So, okay, so the question was how to say little bit of this, little bit of this, and little bit of that. So let's look at little bit of this. So normally in something like little bit of this, little and bit would be more important because that's an adjective and a noun. And words like of and this are not as important. They're structure words. But in this case, because we're doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that, suddenly this and that become a lot more important because they're what changes between the two phrases. And so I'm using stress here where I normally wouldn't. If I'm saying this is a little bit or that's a little bit, this and that are not important. But when they come at the end and I'm doing this versus that, then they get stressed and they're important, which means little bit of, or all those syllables, little bit of, are the parts that need to run together and link. So first of all, for some of you, little might be a tough word to pronounce. I usually rewrite it like this. We say it just the same way we do say middle, but with an L at the start instead of an M. So middle, little. if you picture it and think of it as two Ds, that may help you get that flap sound and that syllabic L more easily. Little bit of. And so I'm going to have kind of stress pattern of little, and then in bit of, again, that's going to link. The T is going to follow the rule. It's followed by a vowel, so it's going to be a flap sound, just like the flap in little. Sounds more like a light D. So it'll be like little bit of. So of, another really common word that sometimes people mispronounce because of how it's spelled. It has the and the v sounds. No O sound, no ah sound, no F sound. It's very strange. We rarely have the letter F saying the v voiced sound like V. So I've rewritten that here for you with U and V. Little bit of, little bit of. So bit of, that's kind of the stress pattern. Stress on release, main stress on this. Little bit of this, little bit of that. Yeah, that was a great question. Thank you. Another great example of a lot of the ways written words differ from fluent speech, and something where the rhythm of this also changes from the normal pattern. So I can see why you would have asked about that. Thank you for bringing that up, Ms. Fatumi. Okay, Mushif Kiraman, I'm not sure if I'm saying your name correctly, but he has a question about anesthesia. So in anesthesia, I think for most people the challenge here is having the S and TH sounds together, and then also knowing what to do here with the SI at the end. So we have stress on the the syllable. So we have and secondary stress on the an syllable. So that's the a vowel. Anis. This E is probably going to be a reduced is sound. Anis. Main stress is on the TH, which is a voiceless TH in this word. The. Letter E does say the E sound. The. And then here, this SI says the j sound, like in visual or measure. It's like a voiced SH sound. So j. So anesthesia. What that's going to look like is anesthesia. That's how I would rewrite that. Anesthesia. Anesthesia. Yeah, okay. So anesthesia, that's covered. I do have a video for this, as well as anesthesiologist, anesthetize, anesthetic, a bunch of medical terms like that. You can find those on my medical words playlist. Okay, great. Let's look at, so Duke, we're talking about, Undead Heart is talking about her alma mater, the University Duke. That's my grandmother and grandfather's alma mater as well. She had said it primarily previously as Duke, which is more the British way. The American way, like if they were saying like the Duke of Wales, they would use that y sound there. In American English, we drop the y sound after D, T, N, S, a few other places, and we just say Duke. She is saying also that she, that also sounds harsh. And so it's definitely a gentle D there, Duke. I don't need to have that crisp Duke, but rather Duke. So we talk about this in words like tune, YouTube, news, do, our do and our do are both the same. No y sound in any of those. I do have a video talking about that in more detail, but that's a good observation. Thank you for sharing. Okay. We have a question about instruments. So in instrument, we have first syllable stress. Instrument. In instrumental, the stress changes. So first, let's break down how to pronounce instrument. So we have first syllable stress, sounds, letter I sounds like it, just like in. And so instrument, the oo really gets reduced more to just a schwa here, instrument. And then you may see that there's almost no vowel at all in that final syllable, rather than ment, more reduced, almost going right from the M to the N, ment, instrument. So I would write that as instrument. If there is a little vowel in there, it's going to be a schwa or an I sound, a very reduced, not clear vowel, instrument. But then when we change to instrumental, we only have secondary stress on the in, and our main stress is on the men syllable, the second to last syllable, instrumental. So that sounds like same as here, but men, and then we're going to have a clear F vowel, mental. And people do this two ways. They either will say instrumental with the T, true aspirated T and the L, instrumental, or they might say mental, following the American pattern of dropping the T in NT. So we say internet rather than internet. We might say instrumental rather than instrumental. I think I tend to use that T in instrumental rather than dropping it. Yeah, so instrument or instrumental for the second one. And when I have instruments, I just have to add an S after my T. Instruments. Okay, great. Thank you for that question. We have a question about how to know which syllables to stress in multisyllable words. So generally speaking, there are some patterns in English. Like for our last example, instrumental, we often stress on the second to last syllable if there's 4 or more syllables. So for example, in communication, when we have ation or ishan, definition, we're always stressing on the syllable right before the shun. So that is one consistent pattern. Communication, education, definition, transition, that you can count on. A lot of words have that at the end, so that's useful. But unfortunately, there's no set rule or pattern for where we stress in longer syllable words. The middle syllable or the second to last syllable is often stressed, but we have plenty of words like we were just talking about, like instrument. It's 3 syllables, but we stress on the first syllable. So generally what I suggest is practicing and learning the most common, frequently used words, and just practice syllables that words that have the same syllable stress together. So for a lot of people, what happens is they tend to overstress on the first syllable, where, for example, you might have words like production, where it's stressed on the middle syllable, and they might say production. They might be tempted to put a clear vowel and stress in the first syllable. So you want to practice by saying the stress syllable first and drop off that first syllable. So rather than production, practice saying duction and then add it back. Duction, production. So there's some techniques for figuring out which words that you have sorted incorrectly in your mind. Often it's a word that comes from, that's the same word in your native language, but it's not pronounced the same, and your native language has a different stress on it. The dictionary does show you how to stress syllables, and I have a number of videos here on the channel breaking down the common syllable stress patterns and syllable stress words. You can check that out in my intonation playlist. And in my American Accent 6-week course, I have about 2,000 words broken down for you by which syllable gets the stress, so you can use that to discover if there's any that you have incorrect in your mind, and use those to practice. And you can check out that course on our website, speechmodification.com. Okay, we have a question about the word electronic. So this follows our pattern of second to last syllable stress. Tra is the stress syllable, electronic, which means that our first letter E is not going to be an E or a strong sound. Does have secondary stress. Electron. No, it doesn't. Electronic. So it is just an I sound. I do think if people see this word and say it by themselves, they might be tempted to say electronic. But in connected speech, when we're really using it, electronic, it's a very short, unstressed I sound. Same with electric. You don't want electric, not my electric bill, but my electric bill. So in electra, we have secondary stress on the lek here. Main stress on tronic. So I would rewrite that as electronic. So all of my electronic devices need charging. Yeah, that's a good word. Thank you for that request and that question. Okay, we have a question about how to pronounce peninsula. So this is one that tends to differ between American English and British English. In American English, we tend to do peninsula. And in British English, peninsula. They either do an SH there or the sya, like we were talking about with Duke. They have the y sound in there. So first, American English. Since we're stressing on the nin syllable, this first letter E is going to be unstressed, p, an or an I sound, p. I would usually use a schwa there, I think. Peninsula. So lots of schwas here in the unstressed syllable. Sounds like peninsula. She lives on the peninsula. Florida is a very large peninsula into the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean. Yeah, and then in British English, peninsula, more of an oo here, peninsula, or more of an sh. So either peninsula or peninsula, sula. Yeah, but American English, peninsula. That's a great word. Thank you for asking. Okay. Yes, so nice to see so many of you here this morning. Thank you for the great questions. If you have a question, you're watching this later on, you can put that in the comments for me, and I'll be happy to cover that for you. Let's take another look at how to pronounce. We'll look at how to pronounce the word mundane. So mundane has second syllable stress. So we're not saying mundane, but rather mundane, which means that this A will follow the rule that the silent E makes the A say its name. So that's a spelling pattern that we have. A word like Dane, cane, sane, etc. The A is going to have that diphthong A sound because of the silent E at the end. Letter U is going to say an unstressed schwa here. Mundane. So for the A, we have the A diphthong. I would rewrite that as mundane, like rain, mundane. She grew really tired of the mundane tasks of working in an office. Good word. Thank you for that request. Okay, we have a question about how to pronounce melancholy. So let's take a look. Okay, to pronounce melancholy, we have first syllable stress. Mel has the clear vowel eh, like in met. And so an IPA would be mel, melon. That A almost says no vowel at all. Melon, it's going to have a schwa. So I would kind of almost write just melon. Maybe a little there, melon. So go pretty quickly from your L to your N, melon. And then we have stress on the ka syllable. Melancholy. No, we don't have stress on the ka syllable. Melancholy. Maybe secondary stress there. Melancholy. So melancholy. They were feeling very melancholy after listening to the news. She was in a melancholy mood on the rainy day. Yeah, thank you. That's a great word. Good suggestion. Nice to see so many of you here. Thank you for all the great questions. And I will continue to answer them for you. So I'm going to look at we have a question about how to join my class. So you can check out the courses. They're on speechmodification.com. Just go to my website and click on courses. There's a lot of free information on my website as well, some free practice materials, and you can see a range of courses. We have a Sounds of English course that's great for learning the basics and a good solid foundation for pronunciation. We have an American Accent 6-week course, which is more thoroughly looking at changing your speech patterns. And then we also have a Real Talk course that allows you to look at fluent speaking like we talked about at the beginning of class today. We do also have an all-access pass where you can check out the classes. It's a little less expensive. You can kind of see what might be a good fit for you before you purchase any class. Okay, we have a question about whether Christmas has a T sound. So Christmas, so my name Christine is a derivative from Christ and Christian. It's stressed on the second syllable teen, Christine. So that means that it does have a T sound, and the T says it's fully aspirated, Christine. If I'm just saying Christ, where Christmas comes from as well, I'm going to hear the S and the T sounds at the end. But in Christmas, we have 3 consonants in a row, and that means that the T sound will drop. So you just hear it like Christmas. Muss or miss, it's basically almost no vowel there. Christmas, first syllable stress. Yeah, so no T. That doesn't always happen, but often when we have consonant cluster of 3, the middle one will drop because you can't hear Christ. It'll break the flow. Christmas versus Christmas. That T just drops entirely. Yeah, good question. Thank you for that. Okay. We have a question about how to pronounce the word pivotal. So we have pivot has first syllable stress, or letter O does not say an O or an A sound, rather just an I sound or a schwa sound, pivot. And in pivotal, because this T is between 2 unstressed vowels, it's going to sound like a flap. So you'll see that as pivotal. And that final L is kind of a syllabic L, so really not much between the flap T and we don't really do a tall or a clear vowel there, just dull, like we do in little, as we talked about earlier, in little bit, little of this, little of that. Pivotal. Yeah, good word, thank you. Okay, we have a question about iteration. So iteration. So another flap T here, it's going to sound like iter. Stresses on the A, like we talked about earlier, second to last syllable stress, and Asian words are always stressed on the A, so that's going to be a clear vowel there. Iteration. So in this iteration of the document, he brought in some new information. Which iteration of the phrase did you use? Yeah, thank you for that word. Okay. So father's parents are grandfather and grandmother, mother's parents. We don't have a different term for, so you have your parents and you have your grandparents. And in some languages, they make a distinction between mother's father and mother's mother. The only thing that we do, if we want to specify which set of grandparents, which grandmother and grandfather it is we would say maternal for if it's the mother's parents. So my maternal grandparents were the ones who went to Duke, and my paternal, that's my father's parents, my paternal grandparents attended college elsewhere. So some languages specify that. What often happens, though, in English-speaking places is that families will choose. So there is most formal is grandmother and grandfather, but often people will often say grandma. They might say granny or Grammy. For grandfather, they say grandpa. So grandpa, here's another example of, we don't say the D, just like we didn't in that word with the other 3 consonants in a row. Not grandpa, but grandpa. Or granddad is another one. Granddad, grandpa, grampy. So lots of different nicknames. We rarely would say, we might say my grandmother was, but when we talk to them, we tend to call them grandma, grandpa, Grammy, or when we talk about them. So one of the things I think that happens to differentiate within families, maternal or paternal grandparents, is that people will have different things that they call them. And usually that's dictated by what the grandparents want to be called. And then there's a lot of other things like Nana, Papa, nanny, like lots of different cute casual nicknames for those terms. That's an interesting question. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay. We have a question about learning vocabulary because of learning one word at a time, and what are some keys for learning vocabulary and some keys for how shadowing can help us. So I believe last week I went through some information about how to improve your vocabulary, and I have a short that I made out of that's coming out soon, or a shorter video, not a full-length class. Generally speaking, for vocabulary, it's about doing a lot of reading and listening, because we acquire words from reading and listening first, and then trying to take the words that you understand and know and use them more when you're speaking. So typically we always understand more than we tend to use, and we're always trying to increase the understanding by getting more exposure to new words. So reading things that you don't understand all of the words and looking up the words and using context to help you learn those words. Not necessarily trying to then immediately speak those words, but work on speaking and including words that you already know and understand. You just don't use them in spoken speech, and just taking it slow, trying to take one word or two at a time. So I can learn new words from reading. I can also learn new words from listening to people around me and which words they use that I like, that I don't use myself. Start trying to use them, practice with them. Also using writing. We often will write words that we don't say. So using writing to expand. And as far as that's concerned, what I would say is it's definitely important to build vocabulary and have words ready for speaking. But a lot of times there are words that we use in writing that we don't use in speech. So you might notice, even watching my classes, I'm not using a lot of complex vocabulary. I'm mostly using simple language, just because that's how people actually talk and how people communicate most clearly. So it's not always easy, but sometimes the simplest words are best when speaking. And expanding your vocabulary is a great goal. So I hope some of those techniques help you. And as far as your question about shadowing, I find shadowing to be most useful when you're using it for rhythms, patterns of intonation, not as much for specific pronunciation, but more for fluent speaking, kind of being able to get the overall big picture of hearing and repeating, and letting go of some of those details of pronunciation sometimes. Those you can work on more when you're just working on small phrases or individual words. Shadowing is best for kind of getting the big picture of rhythm and fluency, generally speaking. So I do have a shadowing playlist here on the channel. It can be very useful for just feeling more natural using American intonation patterns. And I also have some shadowing videos that look at just one specific pattern. So if you're trying to change, for example, your flap T sounds, I have a video talking about with lots of examples of where we use that flap T so you can get more comfortable hearing it and then saying it yourself. So check that out here on the channel as well. Great questions. Both things that are a lot of viewers want to know about. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Okay. We have a question about whether in hand or sandstorm do we drop the D? Yes, so hand in hand. In this case, because the D is followed by a vowel, they were walking hand in hand, hand in hand. I don't actually drop that D. If I was saying, for example, handsome, or your word of sandstorm, storm, I do drop these Ds because the next sound after the D is a consonant. So sandstorm, handsome. If I did handsome, it would break it and sound like two words, or sandstorm. So sandstorm, I don't really need to keep that middle D. But I also don't want to have a long N. So don't really want to do handsome or sandstorm. You hear how if I say sandstorm versus sandstorm, I keep that N kind of short because it's as though the D were coming in to stop it a little bit before I do the S sound. But when I do hand in hand, my D is followed by a vowel sound, and so I actually link it. That sounds more like hand. My markers are all drying up. That sounds like hand in hand. And then this D I'm going to say because it comes at the end, hand in hand. Yeah, okay, so they were walking hand in hand. Yeah, great question, thank you. Yeah, so thank you so much for your support, your comments lately on the channel. That really does help YouTube think and know that people want to hear and see this content. So when you interact with the channel, comment and like, it makes me happy. It gives me information about what you're liking and also what new videos to make for you. You may have seen I had a post on the community page. I think I had responded to 1,500 or more comments in the last time period that they were tracking. And so I do really go through and read all of your comments, try to get back to you with resources, because I feel like that's why you're here, to get information, to get answers, and I want to be available as a resource for you. So don't hesitate to leave questions or comments. I really appreciate getting them. And they do help the channel to grow. They help YouTube to know this is content that people want to see, so they'll show it to more people, which is my goal, to help reach as many people as I can. So I appreciate all of you being here at live class week after week, attending and liking my other videos. On Tuesday, we have a new video coming out I'm really excited about, so I hope you'll check that out, and a lot of little shorts coming out. Another new video tomorrow as well, not a live class, but a new video is dropping, so come back to the channel to see those coming up. Okay, we have a question about siblings, whether siblings mean only brothers and sisters. Yeah, so siblings is just my brother or my sister. Two people can be siblings, or I have 3 siblings. We just use that for brother and sister. For our children, we don't use siblings, so we just use children. So grandparents, parents, children. The siblings are just the relationship between the children. Yeah, okay, very good. We have a question about Nathaniel Hawthorne. So just try Nathaniel Hawthorne. And we have a question about the word but should drop the T and just say but. So we don't drop that T, but we don't release it either. So I'm not saying like, I wanted to go but I couldn't. You hear how that's kind of stopping in my throat, or just buh would sound incorrect. I wanted to go but I. If I'm following by a vowel, I'm going to link it and it'll sound like a D. I wanted to go but I couldn't, or it was good, it wasn't good, but that. In that case, the T again follows the rules of connected speech where it's not going to be released. It's going to be a stop T, but that was okay. So it depends in this word on what follows. What you're probably noticing is that often we don't release the T's at the ends of words when they're followed by another consonant sound. We just use what's called a stop T sound. Thank you for that question. Okay, thank you so much, Edison, channel member, for being here and for your feedback about the fluent speaking videos. That's been a focus of the channel lately, and I'm trying to make more of those to help those of you who are really looking at that, having that natural sound in connected speech. So I appreciate that feedback. A question about how to pronounce the T in water. So again, this is a flap because it's between two vowels, two unstressed vowels. So it's going to sound the same as the D sounds in words like middle or waiting, water. So I would just write it as water. So a flap is basically voiced like a D, but it doesn't build up any pressure. So I don't want a strong D, not water, with a strong stopping air and releasing. Just one tap up of the tongue, water, is what the flap sound is. Some languages use a flap for the letter R, so it's like one roll of a rolled R. It's the front of the tongue lifting and gently tapping up once. Okay, great. We have a question about how to pronounce the word butcher. Yeah, this is a good one. So in butcher, we have the vowel like in push or pull. So be careful not to do it times oo, not boo, but rather like in book as well. The butcher did his cuts by the book. First syllable stress. TCH is just going to be the ch sound, butcher. You might sort of think of it as a stopped, unreleased T there, but because the T positioning is part of the CH sound, you're just going to see it as a ch sound in the IPA. And then we have an sound. So I'd write that as b, or you could think of it like the in should or could. That looks like ba though, like in bought. So I'll just use a U there. Butcher. Yeah, so I hope that I didn't butcher that pronunciation. The butcher is responsible for the safety of the meat. Yeah, okay, great word. Thank you for that request. I don't think anyone's ever asked that here on the channel before. I am planning a series. I'm going to go back through and look at which questions are asked the most in these live classes. I've been doing the live class for, I don't know, like 5, 6, 8, a lot of years. And it seems to me that, of course, every class there's something new I've never been asked before, which is fun. But there's a lot of things that cut across many people who are watching. So certain words that they want help pronouncing, certain questions like today about increasing vocabulary, shadowing, fluency. So I'm going to be collecting a series of kind of question and answer videos for you where you can go through and your questions might be part of that. Some of the most common things that get asked. And so that's going to be a new playlist and a new series coming up here on the channel. So I hope you'll check that out and give me your ideas for it, either in the live class or leave me comments saying, I've always wondered about this. So it could be about pronunciation or about fluent speech. The things that you find kind of challenging and you haven't found satisfactory answers elsewhere, that's the kind of question I'd love to answer for you. So that's something to look forward to. Okay, we have a question about annihilate. So annihilate. So this one has an H that's kind of silent. Annihilate. It's stressing on the ni syllable. Annihilate means letter A is going to be the sound. Stressing on the I. So the annihilate, you can't really hear that H. Annihilate. It ends up being more of like of a y sound. Annihilate. And then we have late. So I would rewrite that as annihilate. late. And for use, it means to get rid of entirely. So the entire population of the town was annihilated by a flood. Usually it's something pretty bad. Sometimes people might use that casually, like we annihilated that pizza. But it's usually talking about like total destruction or completely wiping something out. So the inventory was annihilated after the sale, or a nuclear war could potentially annihilate the population of the entire world. Good word. Okay, I have a question about how to pronounce thistle. This is one of my favorite words. Not easy to pronounce, just fun because it has the TH and the S. You're probably saying, Christine, that's not fun. That's terrible. So my apologies. But so thistle, the first TH sound, the tongue needs to be out between the teeth, and then we pull back for the S sound behind the teeth. Thistle, thistle. And then the sul, thistle, the T is basically silent. So it sounds like thistle, and there's basically just going right from the S to that syllabic L, thistle. Similar word, whistle. Sounds like whistle. So if thistle gives you trouble, maybe start with whistle and then just take the W back off. So whistle, issle, thistle. I always think thistle sounds like a frontal lisp, because people want to say sissle or thistle, right? Because we have something called accommodation, or we have a phenomenon where when there's two similar sounds, the mouth wants to do both. So it wants to do two THs there or two S's there. So something like thistle is tricky because you're fighting against the challenge of the TH sound, which is not easy in English, and those two sounds wanting to just be the same, as opposed to doing two similar sounds close together. Okay, great. All right, I need to take a couple more questions and then I need to wrap up for today. It's great to see so many of you here. It's a nice long class with some great questions, so I really appreciate that. Let's look at, if I don't get to all of your second and third questions, my apologies. I'll try to, but I'll try to cover at least one question from each person. So we have a question about egalitarian. So egalitarian. So how we pronounce egalitarian is we stress on the gal syllable. This has the a vowel, like in pal or pat. Egal. So no stress on the letter E means it's going to be the I sound. So secondary stress on gal, not first, not primary. Egalitarian. So the air syllable, the tear syllable gets the stress. Tear, E, N. What I would note here is that between the E and the N, you have a little y, vowel linking there. So think about it like egal, main stress on tear, E, yun. Egalitarian. So we have to hope for more egalitarian practices in hiring. That's a great word. Thank you for that request. Okay, wonderful to see so many of you here today. We will have live class again next week, and then maybe on the 27th as well. I haven't decided yet. Depends on what's happening with the holiday time. Leave me your comments and your questions if I didn't get to all of yours today in a comment, or if you're watching this as a replay. And watch for our upcoming series with some of the most frequently asked questions. Come back again tomorrow for our new video, and Tuesday another new video is dropping. Thanks again so much for being a part of the channel. I appreciate you all. Channel members, your support is wonderful. As I said before, commenting, liking, sharing the videos is huge for channel growth, and I appreciate it very much. Thanks for a wonderful class, everyone, and I hope you have a great Saturday ahead. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you can do it. speechmodification.com. Bye, everyone. Hope to see you again soon.